let's think about power. Now, not just any power, we are talking about power in student and staff relationships. Now, it's easy to think about power between students and staff, like how the teacher has all the knowledge because they are really the expert. But what if students, like me, have power too? We might not be the experts in our discipline, but we are the experts at being university students. But hang on, let's just pause for a minute. I'd like to ask you a question and think about this question as we go. What kind of power do students have that staff don't have? Okay, so keep this question in mind. Now, I did a bit of reading about power, and I found lots and lots about power imbalances between students and staff. The kind of stuff like how staff doubted the experience and abilities of students, how students are not seen as agents of change, and how students and staff have conventional roles and maybe they should stick to them. But there is something else that I found, and you could find it too. I discovered that partnerships can change these power differences. I mean that through partnerships, both students and staff can be empowered. This is what the 21st Century Curriculum Project at Western Sydney University is doing. This project incorporates student curriculum partners, 11 students who participate in conversations about curriculum and help to shape how curriculum is made here. I wanted to share with you my experience of power as a student curriculum partner. This is me at my first big university event. You can probably tell that I'm a little nervous. A crowded room full of experts, and here I am, just a student. Here's the team of student partners. We thought it would be a good idea to stick together on our first day. It felt less daunting that way. But it wasn't just power between students and staff that we noticed. We noticed power between each other, between staff and other staff. We felt the power of the whole institution. It's almost like we have layers of power in this new space, and being a student partner means you have to navigate these layers. Okay, fast forward to a year later. Here's Hassan leading a conversation on his own. Here's Vanessa shooting a video that staff will watch. And look at Shanu presenting on our new unit called #WeAreTheUniversity. Varun here is on a judging panel, judging staff presentations. And me, pitching our unit to an academic audience. In these kinds of scenarios, staff and students both have power now. It's certainly different power, but we are working together. But how did we, the students, feel comfortable to use our voice and power in the first place? Because we were taught the university. This means that we are coming to understand how this big place works. This is where Jeffrey J. Williams comes in with his idea of Teach the University. He says that students can learn the ways and means of the world they are in and what it does to and for them. He also explains how the university is made up of social, philosophical, historical, cultural, and literary realms. There's a lot to learn about the university, but we have to keep in mind that the university might look different to everyone. It might look like this, 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 or even this, and it will certainly look different for students and staff. But this is what is really exciting for me. If we can adopt Williams' idea of Teach the University, we might start to see power between students and staff as a partnership. Okay, so I'll leave you with that earlier question. What kind of power do students have that staff don't have?
Hi, my name is Allison Cook-Sather, and I'm the director of our Student Staff Partnership Program at Bryn Mawr and Haverford Colleges. I've been directing this program for 12 years, and I'm here with two student partners.
Hi, I'm Kara Lee. This is my second semester in this Student Staff Partnership.
And I'm Jake. This is also my second semester in the Student Staff Partnership Program.
So we thought we would just talk a little bit about how we have been thinking about power and experiencing power, since that is the theme of the gathering. And we just wanted to start by saying that we know and we recognize that power infuses everything all the time. All student-faculty relationships are infused with power. It's structured into our institutions. And what we are trying to do with student-staff partnership is to work against those hierarchical and usually zero-sum ideas of power and of relationship. And we've had about 250 faculty, staff go through our partnership program and about 150 students. So over the years we've thought about what does it take to create this kind of partnership work, what kind of support do people need. So we're going to talk a little bit about some examples of when that doesn't seem to be happening, the more traditional kind of power dynamics, and then how it can happen through partnership, that power is in fact shared.
Last semester I took a course and I interacted with a professor who had different priorities for the course, and that sort of manifested in a way that was the more like traditional kind of hierarchical power relationship, where I felt that this professor really wanted for students to just do what he wanted them to do, and there wasn't really room for thinking about student experience in the classroom or the role that students really had to play in the learning environment. And that sort of made me, as a student in that classroom, feel really stifled and uncomfortable. And even in the times when I did try to speak up and did try to develop a better understanding of why the professor was teaching that way, it wasn't really met with openness. It was more met with sort of like aggression. Whereas I think in the student partnerships, there's a lot more of a sense of sharing power, because students come into the partnership and staff come into the partnership with, I think, a shared feeling of vulnerability, but in different ways.
In the partnership that I was a part of last term, I had a really wonderful collaboration and relationship with the staff member I was working with. They were approaching it from the idea of being reciprocal. So we were learning from each other. We all have preconceived notions of what it's like to be in a certain role. As a student, I have ideas of what it means to be a staff member, and staff members, having been students and working with students all the time, have ideas of what it's like to be a student, but coming into that space and learning from each other what it is to live in that right now was really eye-opening for both of us.
It isn't just one-sided. It isn't just focusing on the experience of the professors or the experience of the students. There's a balance, and I think that's one of the biggest strengths of the program, is that balance of people coming together and being vulnerable together and thinking together and learning together.
You sort of are coming into it just as people, shed of the roles that you typically embody in a classroom. You know, the student is not just I am a pupil, and the staff member is not there as a professor. They are there as people to discuss pedagogy and to discuss education and to discuss inclusivity in a compassionate, collaborative environment.
So some of what we were talking about a little bit before we started recording was what creates this kind of environment, what creates this kind of possibility. And we were talking about trust and respect and deep listening and courage, and really, as both Carolee and Jake have said, everybody's vulnerable and everybody's bringing something to the table to be shared. So a question that we thought maybe everybody there could think about is, how do you create the kind of environment where people feel like they have enough structure to be vulnerable in that way, and to feel like everybody has something to gain from the relationship and everybody has something to contribute?
I'm Kelly.
I'm Natalia.
I'm Kelly.
I'm Maydreen. Power is always there when there's a kind of relationship between a learner and the staff member or the teacher. Obviously, there's some sort of unspoken, I guess, language or way in which to interact with each other.
I think it's because that dynamic between teacher and student has been set the same for such a long time. I think that notions of power just always relate to that, the way of working that has been the same for such a long time. So I think students see it as a lack of power, any say or engagement within their learning or classroom. So I think feeling like they don't have something is probably why we go to power quickly.
My point of view, I think power is something that's very important that needs to be addressed in any learning dynamic relationship.
For me, I don't see it as a teacher-student or student-teacher power dynamic. It's something that is between the two interaction.
Because it's such a dynamic process that through the relationships between learners and teachers, whether it be in the classroom through co-creation or in this extracurricular kind of intense small-scale partnership that we've been engaged in, it gives us the opportunity to name that kind of invisible structure working on us, where we've got a lot of assumptions about our role and what we're supposed to do, and it gives us permission to decide together how we want to change that. Which means every partnership and every classroom where it is looks different.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And it was for those students in the focus group, even for each of those students, it was different what it looked like. They all talked about it in similar ways, but there were differences in how they experienced that.
And so at UQ in Australia, as in the UK, there are a lot of people kind of now talking about what would it actually mean if a student was a partner in learning. How would that make us rethink the power dynamic? Who gets to make decisions? What do you think this conversation would look like if it were happening in Papua New Guinea?
I think it will be quite complicated. I say it has been quite complicated, quite debatable, because compared to the West, Papua New Guinean students are not given as much agency. The ability to express or to come up with ideas sometimes is shunned upon. It's like being a bit too smart or cocky.
It's really tricky, and it raises some interesting questions about power in partnership, particularly when I think about institutions that want to scale it up and have all students and staff doing this. How important it is that we really need to be mindful that power is a really subjective experience. People think about it differently, they'll have a lot of questions, and we really need to be mindful that we don't see that as resistance or people being negative, but that through this, it really does to have dialogue. It gives us a place to actually stop and understand someone else's point of view, where they might not be thinking about power the way that we do. They might not use the word power even, they probably won't, but they're talking about the relationship and the dynamic and how they think it should be, and whether or not they're ready to change that or disrupt it